If you've been hurt before, this message is for you, not because you are weak, not because you failed, not because you loved the wrong way, but because you dared to open your heart in a world that often rewards walls more than honesty. And I want you to understand something deeply right now as you listen to these words. The pain you carry is not a sign that something is broken inside you. It is proof that something beautiful once lived there and still does, even if it feels buried under disappointment, betrayal, silence, abandonment, or promises that were never kept. And maybe you've asked yourself late at night why it had to be you, why you trusted so deeply, why you gave chances, why you stayed longer than you should have, why you believed words that later felt empty. And maybe you've replayed conversations in your mind, wishing you had spoken differently, walked away sooner, or protected yourself better. But hear this clearly: you did nothing wrong by loving with sincerity. Because love given with a pure heart is never a mistake, even when it is not returned the same way, even when it ends in tears instead of forever. And the hurt you feel now does not mean you are foolish, it means you are human, it means you are capable of deep connection. And that is not something to be ashamed of, even if right now it feels like a burden you wish you could put down. And I know there are moments when you feel tired of being strong, tired of pretending you're okay, tired of explaining your pain to people who tell you to move on as if healing were a switch you could simply turn off. But healing is not about forgetting what happened, it's about learning how to carry the memory without letting it crush your spirit. And maybe right now you feel guarded, distant, cautious. Maybe you've promised yourself you won't let anyone get that close again. And that makes sense, because when you've been hurt deeply, your heart doesn't shut down. It goes into protection mode, trying to keep you safe from another wound. But protection can quietly turn into isolation if you're not careful. And I want you to know that you are allowed to heal at your own pace. You are allowed to take your time, you are allowed to be selective, but you are not meant to close yourself off forever, because the same heart that was hurt is the heart that will one day feel safe again, loved again, and seen again in a way that does not bring pain. And you may not believe that right now, especially if your trust has been broken more than once. Especially if the people who were supposed to care the most were the ones who caused the deepest wounds. But sometimes the reason the pain feels so heavy is because it was never meant to be the end of your story. It was meant to shape you, refine you, and prepare you for a connection that meets you at the depth you deserve. And this is something very important I want you to remember. Not everyone who leaves your life is a loss, some departures are protection in disguise. Some endings are answers to prayers you didn't know how to ask, and some heartbreaks are redirections, pushing you away from what would have slowly destroyed your peace, and towards something that will honor your heart instead of testing its limits. And I know it's hard to see that when you're in the middle of the pain, when your chest feels heavy, when your thoughts race, when your confidence feels shaken. But pain has a strange way of revealing truths that comfort never could. It shows you who you are when everything familiar falls apart. It shows you your resilience, your capacity to survive, and your ability to rise even when you feel broken. And you might not feel strong right now, but strength is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it looks like getting out of bed when you don't want to. Sometimes it looks like choosing not to beg someone to stay. Sometimes it looks like walking away even though your heart wants to hold on. And if no one has told you this yet, I will tell you now: you are allowed to want love again, even after being hurt. You are allowed to believe in goodness again, even after disappointment. And you are allowed to hope again, even if hope once let you down, because hope is not foolish, it is brave. And the fact that you are still here, still searching for meaning, still listening to words like these, means that somewhere inside you, A part of you still believes that something better is possible, and that part deserves to be protected, nurtured, and honored, not silenced out of fear. And maybe the pain you went through was not meant to harden you, but to soften you in the right places and strengthen you in others, to teach you boundaries without killing your kindness, wisdom without bitterness, and discernment without closing your heart completely, because the right people will not require you to bleed to prove your loyalty, they will not confuse you, they will not make you question your worth, and they will not make you feel like love is something you have to earn by sacrificing yourself. And until they arrive, this season of healing is not wasted time, it is sacred time, time where you reconnect with yourself, rebuild your confidence, and remember who you were before the world taught you to doubt your value. And I want you to breathe for a moment and let this sink in. You are not behind in life, you are not broken beyond repair, and you are not unlovable because someone failed to love you properly. What you are is becoming, and becoming is often uncomfortable, painful, and lonely, but it is also powerful, and one day you will look back at this version of yourself with gratitude, not because of the pain, but because you survived it without losing your soul. And if today all you can do is keep going, that is enough. If today all you can do is listen, breathe, and rest your heart for a moment, that is enough. Because healing is not about rushing to feel better, it's about allowing yourself to feel honestly, and trusting that with time, patience, and self-compassion, the ache will soften, the weight will lighten, and your heart will learn how to open again, not recklessly, not fearfully, but wisely. And when that day comes, you will love not from a place of emptiness, but from fullness, not from fear of losing, but from confidence in who you are. And until then, be gentle with yourself. You are doing the best you can with what you've been through, and that is more than enough. And as you move forward carrying the memory of what hurt you, there will be days when you feel calm and steady and think you are finally past it, and then suddenly a small thing, a song, a place, a sentence someone says, will reopen a door you thought was closed. And in those moments you might feel frustrated with yourself, wondering why the pain still shows up. But healing is not a straight line, it moves in circles, waves, and quiet returns. And every time the pain resurfaces, it does not mean you are failing, it means another layer is being released, another lesson is settling into your bones, and another version of you is being shaped by experience rather than illusion. And sometimes what hurts the most is not what they did, but what you hoped they would be, the future you imagined, the version of love you believed was growing. And letting go of that imagined future can feel heavier than letting go of the person themselves. Because you are not just grieving a relationship, you are grieving a dream, a possibility, a story you had already started telling yourself. And it's okay to mourn that, it's okay to acknowledge that loss without blaming yourself for believing in something beautiful, because believing in beauty is not naive, it is courageous. And courage often leaves bruises before it leaves rewards. And maybe you've learned to smile through your pain, to be strong for everyone else, to say you're fine when you're not. And while that strength has helped you survive, it's important to remember that you don't always have to carry everything alone. You don't have to prove your resilience by suffering in silence, because true strength also knows when to rest, when to pause, and when to be honest about the weight it's carrying. And if right now you feel emotionally exhausted, disconnected, or numb, that is not a failure of healing, that is your heart asking for gentleness, asking for space to breathe, and asking to be treated with the same compassion you so easily give to others. And this is something many people who have been hurt forget. You deserve the love you keep giving away, you deserve patience, reassurance, consistency, and care, not just from others, but from yourself first. And sometimes the reason the pain lingers is because you keep reopening the wound by questioning your worth, replaying what you could have done differently, or comparing yourself to someone else. But comparison will never bring closure, and self-blame will never bring peace. Because the right love does not require you to become smaller, quieter, or less yourself to keep it alive. The right love meets you where you are and grows with you instead of demanding you change to be accepted. And if you were hurt by someone who could not love you the way you needed, that does not mean you were too much, it means they were not able to meet you at your depth, and that is a limitation of their capacity, not a reflection of your value. And there is a quiet power that comes from realizing you no longer need closure from the person who hurt you, because closure is not something they give you, it is something you decide to give yourself when you stop waiting for an apology that may never come, when you stop hoping they will suddenly understand the pain they caused, and when you stop tying your healing to their awareness, because your peace does not depend on their growth. It depends on yours. And growth often begins the moment you choose yourself without guilt, without explanation, and without fear of being misunderstood. And maybe you're learning now how to sit with yourself in ways you never had to before, learning what you need, what drains you, what brings you calm, and what no longer deserves access to your heart. And that self-awareness, even though it came through pain, is a gift that will protect you in the future, because once you've been hurt deeply, you start to recognize the difference between attention and intention, between words and actions, between comfort and consistency, and you stop romanticizing potential and start valuing effort. And this shift may make you feel lonelier at first, because you no longer settle for shallow connections, but it will eventually lead you to people who see you clearly and choose you fully. And until then, it's okay if your heart feels tired, it's okay if you move slower, and it's okay if you take breaks from trying. Because healing is not a race, and you are not competing with anyone else's timeline. And the love meant for you will not miss you because you took time to heal. It will arrive when you are ready to receive it without fear. And I want you to remember something very gently now. The pain you survived did not come to destroy you. It came to teach you discernment, to help you recognize your strength, and to show you that even when your heart breaks, it still beats, it still hopes, and it still carries the ability to love again. And that is something no one can take away from you, no matter how deeply they hurt you. And one day, maybe sooner than you expect, you will realize that you are no longer angry, no longer aching in the same way, and no longer searching for answers in the past. And in that quiet realization, you will understand that healing didn't happen all at once. It happened slowly, patiently, through moments you didn't even notice, and you will thank yourself for not giving up on your heart, even when it would have been easier to close it completely. And as time moves forward, you may notice that the person you are becoming no longer reacts the way you once did. The words that used to cut deeply now pass through you with less force. The situations that once made you feel anxious now feel easier to walk away from. And this change might feel unfamiliar, even a little unsettling, because pain reshapes you quietly. It teaches you how to protect your energy, how to recognize when something no longer aligns with your peace, and how to choose yourself without the constant fear of losing others. And in this phase of healing, you might grieve not just the relationship or the hurt, but the version of yourself that existed before the pain, the one who trusted easily, who believed without hesitation, who opened their heart without calculating the risk. And it's okay to miss that version of you, but don't mistake growth for loss, because what you are gaining now is wisdom, discernment, and a deeper understanding of your own worth. And Those qualities will serve you in ways innocence never could, and there will be moments when you feel tempted to go back to what is familiar, even if it once hurt you, because familiarity can feel safer than the unknown, but healing often asks you to choose the unfamiliar path, the one that feels lonely at first but leads to peace, rather than returning to patterns that keep reopening the same wounds. And you might find yourself becoming more selective with who you let into your inner world. Not because you are cold, but because you have learned the cost of giving access too freely, and this selectiveness is not bitterness, it is self-respect, it is your heart learning how to value itself, and there is nothing wrong with that, even if others misunderstand it, because the people meant to stay in your life will not be offended by your boundaries, they will respect them. And sometimes the hardest lesson after being hurt is learning that you don't need to explain your boundaries to everyone, you don't need to justify why something no longer feels right, and you don't need permission to step away from what disturbs your peace, because your well-being is reason enough. And there may be days when you feel a strange mix of strength and sadness, when you realize you are no longer waiting for them, no longer hoping for a message, no longer replaying memories the same way, and that realization can feel both freeing and heavy, because it marks the moment when you truly begin to let go, not with anger, not with resentment, but with acceptance. And acceptance does not mean what happened was okay, it means you are choosing not to let it control your future, and that choice is one of the bravest things you can make, especially when you've been hurt deeply, and maybe now you are starting to see that the love you were searching for outside of yourself was always something you needed to learn to give inward first. Not in a selfish way, but in a grounding way, in a way that teaches you how to sit with your own thoughts, honor your emotions, and trust your instincts again, and this self-trust is something pain often steals temporarily, but it can be rebuilt, slowly, gently, through listening to yourself instead of ignoring red flags, through resting when you are tired instead of pushing yourself to please others, and through choosing environments and relationships that feel safe rather than chaotic. And you may notice that your definition of love is changing, it's no longer about intensity, drama, or emotional highs and lows, it's about peace, consistency, honesty, and effort, and this shift might make past relationships suddenly make sense, not as failures, but as lessons that guided you toward a healthier understanding of what you truly need. And there is a quiet confidence that grows when you realize you can survive disappointment without losing your sense of self, that you can walk away from what hurts without collapsing, and that you can be alone without feeling empty. And this confidence does not announce itself loudly, it settles into you like a calm certainty, reminding you that you are capable, resilient, and worthy of a love that does not require you to abandon yourself. And if you ever find yourself doubting whether you will love again the same way, remember that love does not diminish when it becomes wiser, it deepens, it steadies, and it learns how to choose carefully. And when the right connection eventually finds you, it will not feel like chaos or confusion, it will feel like clarity, safety, and mutual effort, and until that moment arrives, this season of healing is not empty, it is full of growth, self-discovery, and preparation, and every step you take toward honoring your peace is a step toward a future where love no longer hurts the way it once did, and you will look back at this time not with regret, but with gratitude. Because it taught you how to protect your heart without closing it, how to love without losing yourself, and how to rise from pain with grace rather than bitterness. And somewhere along this journey, you may begin to notice a quiet shift inside you, a sense that you no longer need to chase what once felt urgent, no longer need to convince anyone of your worth, and no longer need to hold on to connections that require constant effort just to survive. And this shift can feel unfamiliar because for so long your heart was trained to equate love with struggle, effort with attachment, and pain with depth. But real love does not exhaust you, it does not keep you guessing, and it does not require you to sacrifice your peace to prove your loyalty. And when you finally understand this, you stop romanticizing suffering and start valuing stability, and this is where healing deepens, because you begin to realize that the calm you are creating is not boredom, it is safety. And safety is something your nervous system has been craving for a long time, even if your mind didn't know how to name it. And you may find yourself craving quieter moments now, choosing rest over drama, clarity over confusion, and consistency over intensity. And this does not mean you have lost your passion or your ability to feel deeply, it means your heart has learned the difference between connection and chaos, and this awareness changes how you show up in the world, how you choose people, and how you respond when something no longer feels aligned. And there may still be moments when memories surface, when you wonder what could have been, or when you feel a brief ache for what was lost, but those moments no longer consume you, they pass through you gently, reminding you of how far you've come rather than pulling you backward. And this is a sign of healing, not because the pain is gone completely, but because it no longer defines you. And one of the most powerful things you will learn in this stage is that forgiveness is not about excusing what hurt you, it is about freeing yourself from carrying the weight of it forever. And forgiveness does not always mean reconciliation. It does not always mean reopening doors, and it certainly does not mean forgetting. It simply means choosing peace over resentment, choosing growth over bitterness, and choosing to move forward without letting the past dictate every step you take. And this choice may need to be made again and again, especially on days when the hurt feels closer, but each time you choose it, you strengthen your ability to live fully in the present rather than being pulled back into old pain. And you might begin to feel a deeper connection to yourself during this time, noticing your thoughts more clearly, listening to your intuition more closely, and trusting your inner voice in ways you once ignored. And this inner connection becomes your anchor, guiding you toward people and situations that feel nourishing rather than draining, and away from those that reopen wounds you've worked hard to heal. And there is something incredibly empowering about realizing that you are no longer afraid of being alone. Because being alone no longer feels empty, it feels peaceful, it feels grounded, and it feels honest. And from this place, any future connection becomes a choice rather than a need, a complement rather than a rescue. And this is where love begins to change form, becoming less about filling a void and more about sharing a life. And you may start to notice that you laugh more easily now, breathe more deeply, and feel more present in your everyday moments, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer carrying the same emotional weight. And this lightness is not accidental, it is the result of all the moments you chose to let go, to heal, and to honor yourself, even when it was difficult. And one day, perhaps without even realizing it, you will wake up and notice that your heart feels open again, not in the same way it once did, but in a stronger, calmer, and more intentional way. And when that day comes, you will understand that being hurt did not ruin you. It refined you, it taught you how to love with clarity instead of fear, and how to trust without losing yourself. And until that day fully arrives, continue to be patient with your process, gentle with your heart, and proud of how far you've come, because healing is not about becoming who you were before the pain, it is about becoming someone wiser, steadier, and more deeply aligned with the life and love you truly deserve. And as this healing continues to unfold, You may begin to realize that the pain you once carried like a heavy weight has slowly transformed into understanding, not the kind that excuses what happened, but the kind that gives you perspective, the kind that allows you to see the bigger picture without reopening old wounds, and this understanding brings a quiet maturity to your heart, a sense that you no longer need to fight your past or deny it, because it has already done its work in shaping you, and now it is releasing its hold. And there will be moments when you catch yourself responding differently than you once would have, choosing calm over reaction, silence over explanation, and distance over conflict, and these moments are small victories, signs that you are no longer living from the place of hurt, but from the place of growth, and this growth may feel subtle, but it is powerful, because it means you are no longer controlled by emotional patterns that once dictated your choices, and instead, you are learning to act from clarity, from self-respect, and from an inner sense of stability that does not depend on external validation, and in this space, you may begin to see your past relationships not as wasted time, but as teachers that revealed what you truly need, what you will no longer tolerate, and what kind of love aligns with the person you are becoming, and this shift in perception softens the regret you may have carried, replacing it with gratitude for the lessons that prepared you for something healthier, something more balanced, and something rooted in mutual care rather than emotional survival, and you may notice that your expectations of others have changed, not in a demanding way, but in a grounded way, because you no longer settle for words without action, affection without consistency, or promises without effort, and this discernment is not fear, it is wisdom earned through experience, and while it may narrow your circle, it will deepen your connections, bringing quality where quantity once existed. And there may still be days when you feel a flicker of sadness, a reminder of what was lost or what never fully formed, but these moments no longer pull you under, they pass through you gently, reminding you of your capacity to feel without being overwhelmed, and this emotional balance is a sign that your heart is healing, not by becoming numb, but by becoming steady, and as you continue to choose yourself, to honor your boundaries, and to listen to your inner voice, you may begin to attract people who resonate with this new energy. People who feel calm rather than chaotic, supportive rather than draining, and honest rather than confusing, and this alignment is not accidental, it is the natural result of the work you've done within yourself, because when you change the way you relate to yourself, you change the kind of relationships you allow into your life, and in this phase, love becomes something you welcome rather than chase, something you share rather than sacrifice yourself for. And this new relationship with love extends beyond romance, touching friendships, family connections, and even the way you speak to yourself, because self-compassion becomes the foundation of everything, and you stop being harsh with your mistakes, understanding that healing is not about perfection, but about progress, and there is a quiet pride that grows when you realize you handled something with grace that once would have shattered you, and this pride is not arrogance, it is self-trust returning, piece by piece. And one of the most beautiful realizations in this journey is that being hurt did not make you less loving, it made you more intentional, more aware, and more capable of choosing a love that honors who you are, and when you finally encounter that love, it will not feel like a test or a struggle, it will feel like relief, like recognition, like coming home to yourself, and until that moment arrives, this season of healing is already a success, because you are no longer defined by what hurt you, but by how deeply you learned, how honestly you healed.